Hello, this is Aline White Swan. I can't believe we've gotten over 13,000 subscribers. We went from around 10,000, which I thought was a milestone, and got another 3,000 while I wasn't even putting stuff up on the channel. So don't let them kid you when they say you have to upload constantly on YouTube. They seem to have been sharing my stuff while I took a break. Anyway, I want to thank everyone who bought me a coffee. I have had Raymond. Thank you, Raymond, for 3 coffees. Don Mateo and Monty. I really appreciate it. There's been a few more of you. There's Beth Patricia Lane. Thank you so much for the coffee. Someone I can't pronounce because it's all thank you. Cow's mom and Kyle McDonald, and thank you so much, all you guys. It really, it does my heart good, because like I said, I don't make any money from this channel. So when you buy me a coffee, I feel like appreciated. That makes up for all the nasty remarks I get about my drivel. Anyway, on with the show. Hello, this is Aline White Swan. Welcome to the Mysterious Domain Movie Palace. So it's Halloween now, and I know you probably were worried that I wouldn't have a film for you because, there's been all kinds of ruckus going on around here, but I do. And the one I chose seemed a bit appropriate to the season, at least by the title. It's called The Black Cat. It was made in 1934, and it stars Bela Lugosi and Boris Karloff. Now, it's possible a lot of you have already seen this film, but I'm sure there are people who haven't. Not everybody gets to see everything. And this one, I have a soft spot for this film for a few reasons. It was directed by Edgar G. Ulmer. He was a Jewish, Moravian, Austrian-born film director who moved to the United States and made some really low-budget B movies. But I think the jewel in his crown, of course, is The Black Cat. And he had the story suggested to him by Poe, Edgar Allan Poe's story, The Black Cat. But as you will see, there's nothing of that story in this film at all. And somebody had made a comment about Danse Macabre, the Castle of Blood, and that had nothing to do with Edgar Allan Poe, even though there was a character in the film of Poe, and it was supposedly based on a Poe story. And that is not unusual at this time to bring in Edgar Allan Poe as an influence on the horror film because of the name recognition and the idea that it will have a kind of a dark psychological aspect to it, like Poe has, and a sort of dark poetry about it, and that it was that kind of a horror film. And this definitely has that. In fact, to me, it seems more like the fall of the House of Usher, where if you know that story, you'll probably see a bit of that in here. It's the house that's very remote, and it's built on an old battleground, and there's a kind of weird incestuous relationship going on. And so it seems more like fall of the House of Usher, but there is a black cat in it. But also, the character of Pearlzig, played by Boris Karloff, is based on Aleister Crowley. Now, what else is interesting about this film is that it was filmed in 1934. So this was after World War I, before World War II, so it was between the wars, when the Third Reich was kind of just cooking there, right? And Aleister Crowley had been like an agent in Germany, like a secret agent in Germany. And I'm not 100% clear about whether he was an MI6 or he was strictly a German spy. But he in I'm not sure if there is clear information on that. It all seems very murky to me. Of course, it should be murky, right? It's spies and stuff. So, but yeah, Aleister Crowley was running around in Germany around this time and may perhaps have contributed to some of the rituals that were going on. I don't know. That's speculation. But also, we have these women in the film. If you haven't seen the film, I'm not going to spoil it for you, but one of the main features of the representative woman in this film has very long blonde hair, and she evokes the Vril maidens that were helping the Nazis through communication with extraterrestrials from Andromeda of how to build spacecraft and weapons and all of this stuff. And they got the information through this long hair that sometimes hung right down to their ankles. There was Maria Orsich is the most famous one, an extremely beautiful girl. They were young. They were quite young girls. Long hair down to her knees and channeling these extraterrestrials, demons, whatever. But they were creating the Foo fighting saucers and spacecraft and all this stuff for the bad guys from World War II. And not only that, the house that Perlzig lives in is an Art Deco masterpiece. The sets are just top Art Deco. I mean, I love the Gothic, but I'll tell you, when Art Deco is done right, it's also extremely beautiful, but it also is a little cold. And I'd say Boris Karloff's character of Perlzig is one of the most disturbingly evil characters he's ever done that I've seen. The way he walks, the way he carries himself, just the way he moves, just the way he just evokes something so nasty. And I don't know what the state of Boris Karloff's soul is when he does these things, or any of them, but he really tapped into something pretty dark. So Bela Lugosi plays Dr. Wendergast, and he's actually the protagonist, and Boris Karloff is Perlzig is the antagonist. Of course, he's playing an extremely satanic character, right? Now, what else is interesting about this film is that Bela Lugosi is playing, I think, a character very close to his true self. He did fight in World War I in Hungary, and he was wounded 3 times. So he made the rank of lieutenant. So he's a very gentleman soldier type. He's seen the dark side, and I just think he's drawing on his own experience very powerfully in this role. And from what I've seen, I think it's one of his best performances because it's very genuine. He's not being theatrical, even though you can't. In some cases, you can't get more theatrical than Bela Lugosi, but he's being more. It seems more raw somehow in this performance. And then we have these 2 newlyweds, and the chemistry between them is so sweet and flirtatious, and you think they must really be in love because there's just something so natural, sweet about their connection in the film. David Manners also played Jonathan Harker in the Bela Lugosi Dracula film. And then he played another sort of Harker-esque character in The Mummy with Boris Karloff. So, he has been in these circles, His wife is played by Julie Bishop, who had been a child actress and been in films with like Clara Bow and Mary Pickford. But even though she worked as the romantic interest of a lot of the really top male Hollywood actors of the 1940s, she never could break out of that ingenue role. And so she kind of got married and drifted away from films. And of course, our Vril maiden, or our Wagnerian Rhine maiden, is called Karen, is played by Lucille Lund. And she's very beautiful. She had won beauty contests and all this stuff. And she does have this really long blonde hair. Yeah, she's gorgeous. Her story is kind of the fate of many beautiful women. Our director, Edgar Ulma, was trying to pull a Harvey Weinstein on her, and she rejected his advances. Now, unfortunately, old Edgar is a bit vindictive. So she's in this sort of position in the film, which you'll see, where she's kind of hanging in a suspended animation. And he left her there for over an hour, hanging by these wires while everybody else went to lunch. And there were special wires in her underwear. And this is, just being nasty. And then she also claimed that she'd been left on a slab with a contraption under her neck, that she'd been there so long that her mouth began to bleed. And a man named Harry Cording discovered her and released her from this terrible situation, or she might have died. It was pretty bad how they treated her on that set. So it should be no surprise that she did not make a lot of films. It shouldn't be a surprise, I suppose, that when people work with this type of material, that a lot of them aren't very nice. But it's a good film. And it has a little bit also of German expressionism in it. There's a guy that's the guy that answers the door. He may be Egon Brecher. I'm not sure. It's the only one that doesn't have a photo next to his name. He plays like the butler. And he is exactly like something out of a German expressionist film, just the way he looks, the way he acts, and it adds kind of an interesting touch to the atmosphere of the film. So, all that being said, I'm sure I said more than enough for some people, which I guess I always say, if you don't want to listen to me, you can slide that little slider. It's really obvious where the movie starts. So, I don't want to hear complaints, okay? I'm telling you, you know how to do this. You find that little slider, you move it forward, and you don't have to listen to me at all. Just think of that. If I watch one of the films on my channel, I move it forward because I don't want to listen to me before I watch the film. So, I do this as having a tiny smidgen of fair use because I am not a licensed distributor. And plus it's fun, and some people actually like it. So just, anyway. It's Halloween. Let's just have fun. And let's watch The Black Cat.